And we are back after a small hiatus. Um, your host, Stefan, with my guy, Adrian.
What's going on?
Yeah, man. Glad to be back. We had a little
Yeah, it's good
break,
to be back.
but now we are back. There's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to talk about. I've been watching a lot of movies. I don't know what you've been watching, but I've definitely been watching a lot of stuff. So I have a lot to talk about. So what we talking about today, man?
Hey, today I think we have to dive in. We have to dive into Marvel a little bit and try and figure out what's really been going on
Yeah.
in Marvel and like behind the scenes with all the properties that they've been coming out with and how they're doing and just like analyzing them a little bit, you know?
hmm So one of the big things everybody has been talking about is basically Marvel or the MCU post Endgame. So how are you feeling about the overall state of their movies and now a bunch of TV shows since the big finale of the Infinity Saga?
How do I put this? I feel like because Endgame was such a big event, Marvel knows that like with the properties that they're releasing now, they cannot really live up to the same hype that Endgame had. So they're kind of like oversaturating the market to make up for that. And instead of giving us a few things of higher quality, it's a lot of things with lower quality than we're used to. And I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be had with Marvel because I've noticed that a lot of the fans across like social media have actually been complaining about the level of quality that Marvel is saying is acceptable right now. You know?
Yeah, I've been hearing the same things. I mean, everybody's talking about how Marvel fell off since Endgame and none of the movies have been that great and the TV shows. And I'm gonna have to agree. I've watched pretty much everything since Endgame. The only thing that I haven't seen is Miss Marvel and Thor Love and Thunder. But
Mm-hmm.
that's because I'm just so burnt. Okay, look at it like this. I was 10 years old in 2008. And back then, it was a pretty big deal when a superhero movie came out.
Right.
We were lucky to get one Marvel movie in a year or two Marvel movies in a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we've seen them slowly do more and more in a year. I remember in like 2017, 2018, it was a big deal when they started doing three movies a year. And when everybody was like, oh my goodness, we're getting three movies a year.
Right.
And then Endgame comes out, COVID happens, and we kind of have a little drought, right? There was basically a year where nothing came out.
Right.
Then they decided, well, we're going to take over TV. So then we get how many shows last year? I mean, we got a good amount of shows last year.
We got like one show like every other month.
Yes. If you take into account the Star Wars stuff,
Right.
Disney has been dropping something every month because they've spaced it out. Like they drop a Marvel show, then they drop a Star Wars show, and then back and forth. So it's really a lot. And people have been talking about the MCU fatigue or superhero fatigue. And
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to feel it because as a fan, there's got to be something special about when something that you like comes out.
Right.
If something is coming out every day, like if there's a movie coming out every week, it kind of loses its luster. That's really and also when the movies aren't really doing anything that different or that great. Like if I'm just watching a bunch of mediocre movies, I mean, I could spend my time watching pretty great movies. There's plenty of great movies that exist already in the world that I could watch. So
Right.
I'm not gonna waste my time. And time is limited. People got work, people got school, people got families, people got this and that. So I can't just be sitting here watching a bunch of mediocre movies. When
No, that's
at least
facts.
if I'm gonna watch a movie, I'm gonna watch something that I think is gonna be great. And to me, Marvel just hasn't really been delivering in that regard since Endgame.
I'll put it this way: ever since Endgame, Marvel has missed more than they've made. You gotta think the events leading up to Endgame. It was a pretty solid run leading up to Endgame, with the exception of Miss Marvel,
You mean
right?
Captain Marvel?
Captain Marvel, yeah, with the exception of Captain Marvel, right? Because that movie was just okay. You had
Well, and let
Ragnarok.
me and let me get something straight. A lot of movies leading up to Endgame were just okay. I mean, because there was
Well,
Ant-Man 2, there was Avengers 2, had a lot of mixed review. I wasn't really into that movie. I mean, I didn't hate on it as much as other people, but Age of Ultron
Avenger,
wasn't
Avenger,
wasn't very
Avengers
great.
2 kind of growing on me. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, we could talk about that, but that's a whole different conversation. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
that's a different conversation. Yeah, no, but Ragnarok was pretty good. Civil War, I believe, wasn't too long before Endgame either.
Yeah, that was 2016.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So actually, it was a couple years, but that whole phase that was all phase three, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
I
would say
think
like
so.
phase three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Phase 3 was like the end of Phase 3 was Endgame, I think.
Okay. Exactly. No. I think it was Spider Man.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was the
yeah.
last Spider Man.
Yeah.
I mean, the second Spider Man.
Yeah. Far From Home.
Yeah, Far From Home.
I always forget that one was Phase 3.
Yeah, me too.
It was in
I
this weird like between stage.
exactly. Yeah, the movies leading up to Endgame, like it wasn't bad.
Hmm.
So like I feel like we've had runs before where Marvel has made more than they've missed, and I feel like ever since Endgame, it really has not been that way. I would say No Way Home delivered, and I would say Loki delivered, and I would say that WandaVision delivered slightly, in my opinion. A lot of people like it. Some people I've heard some people like our WandaVision more than Loki actually, which is kind of
Yeah,
crazy to
so have
me.
I.
Yeah,
But you
but
know what? I think I'm starting to like WandaVision more now because it was just so different. Like I'm glad they made it. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? Like it might
yeah,
not be the best TV show in general, but I'm glad that they actually took a risk with something.
yeah, me too. Yeah, because it was pretty different. Like I like the concept. The concept was cool.
Hmm.
I would say one of my only you know what? I think my main issue with WandaVision was the CGI, if anything.
And the
It
final fight
wasn't
wasn't really all that. They had like a little Harry Potter battle going on. I mean, I don't know.
right. It wasn't so much the storytelling. I thought that the storytelling kept me intrigued for the majority of the show, but I felt as if like the CGI, which actually is an ongoing issue in the MCU that fans have
Yeah.
spoken out about, was lacking a bit in that. But yeah, WandaVision, Loki, I would say those are the top tier so far Marvel TV shows
Which isn't
that have the
even that
right.
it isn't even that great, Mike. Like I personally think Loki is like a 7 out of 10, and that's the best one to me. 'Cause yeah, like the movies. I think the best movie since Endgame was probably, and I haven't seen Thor 4, so I don't know. I've seen Doctor Strange, I've seen Eternals, ShangChi, and No Way Home, but I I think the best movie might be No Way Home, and I
I mean,
mean,
that's not a bad take.
but here's the thing about No Way Home. Is No Way Home a great movie? No. I mean, it's cool that they brought back the old Spider-Man characters, but it doesn't really make the movie better, if you know what I'm saying. Like
You know what?
just because they put these old people in the movies, and my main problem with that is that they let that leak beforehand. Like I think it would have been a way better experience if nobody knew going in that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were going to be in the movie. But it is what it is. And again, I think that movie is like a 7 out of 10. I mean, there's no like really big flaws. There's not really any dumb stuff. I mean, there's a few little things here and there, but again, I mean, the movie's not that great. I
I would
wasn't
say,
really impressed with Shang-Chi, and Eternals to me was terrible.
yo,
Terrible.
yeah, I told
Um,
you guys about my Eternals experience. I fell asleep and I fell asleep and luckily the power at the theater went out. So it kind of saved me some time because I was not going back to watch it again.
mhm.
Yeah. Oh, one of the biggest upsets for me in Phase 4 so far was Black Widow. I don't
Oh
know
yeah, I forgot
why.
about Black Widow. Black Widow
Yo,
was not very good.
I don't know why, but like I was actually very excited for Black Widow. And actually I do know why. I was excited for Black Widow because something about the trailers and the marketing gave me Winter Soldier vibes. So I was expecting an emotional story, an intriguing like spy thriller on the same. I knew we weren't going to be able to like remake something as good as Winter Soldier for Black Widow, but I still was expecting something as like almost as thrilling as that along the same lines. So when they didn't really deliver, and also me being excited about Taskmaster being introduced and them completely botching the character, I was like, yeah, Marvel is having some serious storytelling issues that needs to be spoken on because like this had the potential to be such a great movie, and I feel like they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
I do agree with you that like Spider-Man was the best is the best movie in Phase 4, and like Shang-Chi, yeah, Shang-Chi was okay. You're right. I did not like Eternals, and I saw both Doctor Strange and Thor: Love and Thunder, but you didn't. But if I was to give my personal ranking on the movies in Phase 4, I would put Spider-Man at the top. I think I would put Doctor Strange above Thor, actually, and then I'll put Thor third. Then after that, I'll put Shang-Chi, then Black Widow, then Eternals.
The Eternals was terrible. And I'm
Yeah.
not a person who falls asleep in when I watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
I fell asleep watching Eternals.
Oh
Seriously.
wow.
That movie was so long and it was so boring. I fell asleep and I didn't even realize it. I woke up. I'm like, what the heck? And then I had to like watch it halfway through, like restart it halfway through because I was just I can't believe that I fell asleep. I usually don't fall asleep,
Right.
like never. And I freaking fell asleep during Eternals. That's how bored I was. And that's one movie that I think should have been a TV show just because it had such a big cast of characters. And then during the movie, they feel like they got to go through each one's backstory. But I think if this was a TV show, you actually gave them time. But then again, you need stronger writing for TV.
Right.
And that brings me to my next point. With these TV shows, I think the main problem with them is writing, which is probably the problem with most TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing about TV. TV absolutely needs strong writing. When you're trying to keep an audience entertained for hours and hours for a season of television, a movie is only 2 hours. So you can get away with just having spectacle. You can be a Transformers. You can be Fast and Furious. You show people something that's entertaining, get them in the seat, they'll be fine. But when it comes to TV, you need to have strong writing. Even if you have spectacle, you can be Game of Thrones and have your dragons and your magic and your big battles. But at the end of the day, that's such a small part. It's the
Right.
characters that keep people interested for hours and hours and hours. We're talking about episodes that are 1 hour long, and then there's 10 of them in a season. And then you're having people watch week after week for over 2 months. And you can't do that when the writing isn't strong enough, when people are not interested in the characters. That's a struggle that Marvel is having since Endgame because over the years we've grown to love these characters, the main Avengers, Iron Man, and then
Mm-hmm.
even later like Spider-Man and all these people in that are in Endgame. And then since then we've been mostly focusing on characters that people naturally don't care about. But people didn't care about Iron Man in the beginning. People didn't care about Thor in the beginning. So you have to build that. And what
Right.
they need to do is have strong writing. You can make people care about these new characters, the Miss Marvels, the She-Hulk, the Moon Knights, but well, and She-Hulk isn't out yet. But again, these are characters that people aren't really interested in or watching their stuff because, like I said, before this MCU even started, nobody really cared about the Avengers. I talked about this before. When we were kids, when we were in elementary and kindergarten, nobody was walking around with Iron Man, backpacks and
Right.
Thor shirts and this and that. No, it was all about X-Men. It was all about Batman, even
Batman,
Superman
exactly. Uh-huh.
and Spider-Man. The most
Right.
popular Marvel heroes were Spider-Man and Wolverine, and the most popular Marvel team was the X-Men. And even Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four was more popular than Avengers.
The
That's why
Avengers, yeah.
there's multiple Fantastic Four cartoons. There's multiple X-Men cartoons because that was the popular thing. There's no Avengers cartoon until about 2010. So,
Exactly.
and the MCU had started at that point already.
I agree with what you're saying. Another issue that I think goes hand in hand with that is I think Marvel, whenever they tell stories, they're facing like a pacing issue when they don't know how long to spend on setup, or they don't know how, like, when is a decent time to input the next like driving factor of the story. And sometimes either the setup is too short, or what I'm saying is one of the issues that I've noticed more frequently is that either the setup is too short, or the next part of the story that they want to implement is introduced too late in the story. So then when everything has to be resolved in the end, it all comes crashing down to like too quick of an ending. So it's either that the setup is too quick or the ending is too quick. You know what I'm trying to
Hmm.
say? It's like there's nothing that's resolved in between. Things can be resolved in between. Like everything doesn't have to be resolved at the last moment, or just like don't introduce too much story if you only have a certain amount of time to tell this story. And I feel like that issue has become more apparent because usually with a Marvel property, a movie, I should say, they usually give it around, I would say, 2 to 2.5 hours, which lately they've actually been on the shorter side, which I'm gonna talk about in a little bit. But 2 to 2.5 hours, right? With
Eternals was
Marvel,
long.
but I'm getting there. With Marvel TV now, you
Hmm.
have about 5 to 6 hours of content now,
They've
and
even been shorter. They've been shorter because they've been like half an hour episodes, and then
okay,
there'll
so
be
let's
like
say
six of them.
okay, so let's say 4 to 5 hours of content, right?
Right.
Now you have 4 to 5 hours of content with less story to tell than the actual Marvel movie. So then it's like you're spending more time on like smaller build-ups or smaller world building things that don't really matter as much to the story as the plot points that you introduce to push the story forward. So then those plot points become too late, and then now you feel like you don't have enough time to complete the story, which is why I think some of the season finales have been so bad in Marvel TV.
Well, just like you're saying, they're really stretching movies into TV shows, and it doesn't really work because here's another thing about TV. TV and within a TV episode, which sometimes is even 20 minutes, could be 11 minutes. These a lot of these shows on Cartoon Network are only 11 minutes, like regular show, Adventure Time, etc.
Right.
And within that, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end within a TV episode. So you have, the beginning, and then you have the climax, and then you have the ending within an episode. And then in a show that isn't really episodic, there's always a thing that makes you want to watch the next one. So in these Marvel shows, there hasn't really been that, I don't think. Again, they really feel like they should be movies, and then they're just trying to stretch it out a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you have is another problem because the MCU is always trying to have a post-credit scene, or they're trying to get you to watch the next season of the show or the next movie, they leave important things out for the next project, which I've never seen it done so blatantly.
Mm.
I just don't understand. You got and Moon Knight is to me is the worst offender.
Right.
Moon Knight was a character everybody was very hyped to see finally be put in live action. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's barely even been in the cartoons. He was in Avengers Assemble, I think, or was it Ultimate Spider-Man, which isn't that great either. But again, he had a small appearance in animation, and we're finally gonna get to know him more as for the mainstream audience.
Right.
And the ending of that was really it really left a sour taste in my mouth. That Moon Knight was really where I started to think like, do I really want to watch the next Marvel thing? Because The finale of Moon Knight, and I liked Moon Knight. I thought it was probably on the same level of Loki or maybe even slightly better. But again, that show had some pacing issues. Like the first episode started off with a bang, and then it was kind of slowing down, and kind of like,
Yo,
okay, when is something gonna happen? And then the finale was so weird. I mean, I've never seen a show skip over the final battle. Show, movie, whatever. Completely skips over the final battle. And spoilers for Moon Knight if you haven't seen it. Sorry
right.
if I said something before, but I mean it's been out for months. If you haven't watched it now, you're probably never gonna watch it. So the whole thing about the extra personality that we didn't really see because the show has been the whole time has been focusing on two,
Right.
on the Mark Spector and the what was the other one's name? Mark Spector and
Uh, Jake, Jake Lockley.
no no
I
no
think.
no Jake Lockley was
Oh,
the third one.
Stephen Grant.
Stephen Grant.
Yeah.
Stephen Grant. And 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 then so during the final battle we have Moon Knight taking out a bunch of bad guys. There's a pretty good action scene. And then we see the moment where the third personality comes in and then he just because we're seeing it from Mark and Steven's perspective. So to them it's like something just happened. So they don't understand like, oh, there's another personality. And it completely skips over the final battle. It was crazy. Like we're seeing Moon Knight fight and then we see the third personality kick in, but then we just see the other ones wake up and go, oh my God, what happened? And we don't see anything that Moon Knight did. In a post-credit scene is where the reveal is, where there's a third personality that is still in the deal with Khonshu. So that's how Moon Knight isn't totally out the deal with Khonshu yet, because there's a third personality that's still working with him. And I can't believe they left that for a post-credit scene. This is the
Yeah.
most important reveal of the show. That to me, that's where we should have seen the third personality actually speak and have lines and do his thing would be the final episode. And then I think that right there would be enough to get me to watch the next season.
Right.
Because now I see, oh my God, there's this third personality. We barely got to see him, but they left it for a post-credit scene. I just don't understand what that deal was. It was just so bizarre to me. I was watching it and I couldn't see. I'm at a loss for words right now because that's how I was when I watched it. I really didn't understand what they were doing. And again, that was where I first started to think, do I really want to watch this Marvel stuff? Because if they're going to be doing weird stuff like this, I don't know, man. It was just so weird. It was bizarre. And then when the shows aren't that great in the first place, I can spend my time watching way better shows. I mean, for example, I watched Spectacular Spider-Man. I just did a full rewatch of that show. It
Mm.
was great. I could talk about how great that show is forever. I watched season 1 of Blue Mountain State, which is a show about it's like a caricature of the experience playing college football, and it's a comedy, so it's really about like college and the parties and all the crazy stuff that goes on, which was hilarious. And then
Okay.
of course, The Boys. I mean,
Right.
The Boys
We got to
season
do a
3
boys
just
pod.
happened, and oh my
We got to do a
goodness,
boys pod.
yeah, exactly. We're gonna talk about The Boys because that's one of my favorite shows, and to me, that's the type of stuff that I want to see. The Boys is like the perfect example. I mean, talk about a show that's great. Now that's great. I could talk about how great that is, but
Yeah, that
I'm
was
just
great
saying in
TV.
comparison to what Marvel has been doing, I'm kind of like I'd rather watch this stuff than whatever's going on with the MCU because to me it's really just been bland and I don't understand what they're doing with this post credit scene stuff. And to me, it's like they're just always trying to get you to watch the next thing, get you to watch the next thing. But we're not even done with this thing. How about you make this thing good first?
Yo, all right. So I thought that I'm making a quick point on that, right? Because of Marvel pushing out all these properties, right? I think that Thor, with the exit of Iron Man and Captain America from the MCU, right? I would say that Thor and Doctor Strange are like the new, like number one spots in terms of like hierarchy
Hmm.
of the heroes, right? So I would think that like they need to do a little bit more on marketing for both of those movies. And I feel like I feel like for the Doctor Strange movie, they did do a pretty good job marketing it from the time of No Way Home's release. But I feel like 2 months in between Doctor Strange and Thor is not wide enough of a gap, you know what I mean, to implement marketing for Thor. And they hadn't even dropped the trailer yet by the time Doctor Strange came out. So that alone gave me a little bit, okay, like what's really going on? Like, is Thor going to be delayed because the movie is slated to come out in 2 months from now? And it kind of gave me pause because I was like, okay, I feel like maybe Thor might not be that good if they're not as excited to promote it as they were for Doctor Strange. And I would say that Doctor Strange wasn't even like the best movie in the past 12 months. So, but yeah, that was just to speak on like the promotion part that you said.
And you watched Miss Marvel and Thor. I didn't because I don't know, and I don't know if I ever will because again, there's just better stuff out there that I could be, spending my time watching.
Yeah,
And
I know what you mean.
and again, like going back to what we've talked about before, like how in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier that you're not really missing anything if you don't watch it because in Endgame you see Sam get the shield and then Captain America 4 comes out and Sam Wilson is Captain America. So like again, you're not really missing anything on a big scale. I mean, you're if they show U.S. Agent, you're not going to know who he is, but
right. It's just another story. It's just
right.
another story, really. I would say that Thor 4 felt more like Falcon and the Winter Soldier in terms of like the story not really impacting the MCU on as big of a scale as you would expect.
And I don't think everything needs to have a big impact.
Well, yeah,
I
it doesn't really
I don't
need
think
to.
it does. I think you could have a movie with people sitting in a room and nothing that happens in a movie leaves the room and it's it's one of the best movies you've ever seen. I've seen a few movies like that.
You know what it is though, is that I feel like we've been conditioned we've gotten used to each new part of the story to be filling in a piece of the puzzle as the story moves forward. But like, it's Phase 4 has been so strange because we know that Kang is going to be the next big bad of the universe, right? And we haven't even gotten a mention of his name yet. Like, we've gotten He Who Remains, which is a variant of Kang, but the name Kang hasn't come out, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think they've said it.
Right. So in terms of that puzzle and filling in the pieces to that puzzle, like,
But they didn't say Thanos for a long time.
Yeah, they didn't say Thanos.
How long did it take? What's the first mention of Thanos? I mean, they've showed Thanos' face, just kind of like how they showed Kang.
The first mention of Thanos was
They never said his name.
It was Infinity War.
So that was when they first said his name, Thanos.
No, well, the first mention of Thanos was probably, was it Guardians of the Galaxy?
Probably. That might be where they first said his name. I don't remember, but I know that in that first post-credit scene in Avengers, they showed Thanos' face, and they did the same thing with Kang, where we show Loki go back to the TVA and he sees the statue.
Okay.
Which was still like a variant too, I think. I don't think it was Kang's actual comic accurate costume.
Right.
But
like, at the same time, like we knew who he was.
Right.
So it's like we knew who Thanos was at the end of Avengers, and then we know who Kang was at the end of Loki. So that comparison makes sense. But still, like, we haven't gotten any Kang variants since then. So it's really been a confusing. I feel like we can't really look at Phase 4 as building blocks for anything other than, I would say, the Young Avengers. To be honest.
And that's the thing too. There isn't really a team, so to say.
Right.
I mean, there's Avengers remnants, but of course the main members are gone. We have Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Thor are left, but that in itself isn't really a problem. Again, they need to build these characters up, build their fan base up. You need to have strong writing, especially if you're doing TV shows, to keep people interested for weeks at a time. Yeah, I really feel like the MCU has been pretty stale, and again, we've seen many complaints of CGI. I'm gonna have to agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
That She-Hulk trailer looked pretty bad.
All right, so this is what I would say about that. The first She-Hulk trailer, like, I didn't like because of the CGI, right? But it from what it contained, it seemed like the story will be pretty interesting. And
I think
I
it'll be
think,
fine. Again,
well,
is it something that I'm jumping out of my chair to go look at?
well,
No.
no. Well, you know what I would say is that like the CGI from Moon Knight wasn't my favorite either. I thought the CGI from Moon Knight was bad.
Yeah, yeah. There was that one chase with that animal thing or whatever. I didn't. That thing
Yo,
was. It's not very good.
yeah, that was terrible. And then I don't like how like they CGI'd his whole suit. I feel like at least some of his suit should have
I don't
been
think they
like,
did. Well, I think in some parts like the cape was, but I think a
yeah, like
lot
the
of the
cape.
time he was wearing a real suit. They built. They. I mean, I know they made real suits like the Mr. Knight and the Moon Knight suit were real.
Hmm.
But I know that when he would be jumping and stuff like that, they would fully CGI him, which is I don't understand that either.
Getting back to like the storytelling part point that I made earlier, it's like we can stick to Moon Knight. I think, like you said before, like it started off so good. Like I thought the goldfish problem as a pilot episode was perfect. Like I was like, yo, this is such a good introduction episode. And I think that Moon Knight was one of the instances where they might have had too much story to tell and not enough time. Like
Hmm
Moon Knight could have been 8 episodes.
I think it could have been 10 easily,
Moon Knight could have.
easily.
I have no problem with. I would have had no problem with 10 episodes for me. I think that even the fact that like once he died, right? I thought that we could have spent like a lot more time in in the actual hospital instead of going into like his plane, like the plane where he hopped on the boat.
Hmm
I think that the time in the hospital could have been like we could have spent a lot more time in there. It would have been more interesting. And
hmm
there was so much story to tell still in episode 6, especially since we did not even get Jake Lockley yet. You know what I mean? They
Exactly.
they didn't really need to leave that out. I feel like it was a bad play on their part. Moon Knight is one of the more interesting stories that we've gotten in the MCU so far, and I don't think that the show did it justice
Yeah.
at
To me,
all.
that's the biggest case of wasted potential. And then that after Hawkeye, which you know how I feel about Hawkeye. Oh my God, terrible. Hawkeye's probably the worst show that I've watched recently.
Wow.
It's horrible. It's bad to me. But I don't have to keep talking about how terrible that is. But again, this all just contributes to my fatigue, I guess, the MCU fatigue. Because again, I mentioned it a little earlier. It was a big deal to get one superhero movie, and then gradually they're doing two a year, then they're doing three a year, and then we got like five shows in 2021, and then now it's like every other month a Marvel thing, and then again the Star Wars. If you factor in the Star Wars, it's every month. I just wonder, where are people even finding the time? Because I love Marvel, but I also like a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of other TV shows, other movies I want to watch.
You know,
I can't just watch Marvel anyway. And it's getting to the point where even if I want to watch everything, I can't.
you know what it is. I spoke about this before we got on, but it's like the fact that there's like a streaming war going on. So like
Hmm
everybody is trying to compete with their respective streaming platforms, and like Disney has a lot of content already from the years that they've been in business, but because Marvel and like Star Wars are so popular, they've just been like trying to capitalize on keeping users entertained by trying to release something weekly. And that, although it might not be an issue for them like money wise, it's like in terms of like quality, that's where the issue lies.
hmm
And in terms of time, I don't really know where people find the time. To be honest, I barely find the time to watch all these shows. The only thing is like the way my job is set up, I'm at my desk all day, and I can just throw the show on in the corner on my phone. That's how I've been. That's how I've been watching the Marvel properties ever since they came out last year. So for me, it's just been like another form of entertainment to keep me occupied while I'm at work. That's why I've been so up on the shows. But yeah, you're right. Like there have been other way better shows that have come around in the past couple of years that have done pretty well. I thought The Boys is one of the best like superhero shows that has dropped in the past few years. But it did
Yeah,
really
The
well this
Boys. We
year.
got Peacemaker. I mean,
Peacemaker.
there's just been a lot. So I'd rather watch Peacemaker.
Yeah, Peacemaker I actually really did enjoy.
Yeah,
I liked it
Peacemaker
a
was
lot.
great.
Yeah,
Peacemaker was great, and it just shows you that there is better stuff out there.
right.
And I think Marvel is, to me at least, I don't know how everyone else feels. It seems like social media is still watching everything, but to me, it's really losing that special factor because to me, it's kind of like how football is because we don't talk about sports on here, but you all know how. If you know me, you'll know how much I love football.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things about football to me is that every week when your team is playing is special because there's not that many. There's not that many football games in a year. But compared to basketball and then baseball, I mean basketball has 82 games a year.
Hmm.
So you could watch your team damn near every other day. And that's
Right.
why the regular season in basketball isn't really important. You even got players doing load management, even when they're not injured, they're not playing and all this other nonsense because the regular season is not important. And basketball is played on a Tuesday night in November, so it's really not special. And especially if your team isn't really a hot team, if you're the Lakers, you're the Celtics, those fans are probably going to watch. But if you're the Kings, I mean, are the Kings selling out their stadium every game? No.
No.
And baseball is even worse. How many games they play? 152.
Yeah, it's something
So,
crazy.
it's like they're really like they're playing how many games a week do they play? They probably play 4 times a week. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it
So,
is crazy.
that's just the comparison I'm trying to make with these high volume sports compared to football, which is way less games and every time you play is special. That's why everybody's so passionate and the stadiums are crazy and everybody's loud because every time your team is playing is special. And now with the amount of stuff that Marvel is dropping, it's not really special. It's kind of just like, oh, it's they're run of the mill superhero show. Oh, it's more cape stuff and all this and all that. The good guys win. Hooray! It's
Mm.
not really interesting anymore. So that's really just where I'm at. Do you have anything else to say on this topic?
Anything else to say on this topic? There was one more point. Okay, there's one more point that I wanted to say, right? And it's the movie. It's the movie to TV show. Which should have been which?
Hmm.
I'll run through the list really quick. Okay, so I'll start with WandaVision.
TV show.
WandaVision, yeah, WandaVision stays as a TV show. I think that it did well as a TV show and also in terms of like the way the story was told. I feel like the TV show worked for WandaVision. I would
Yeah, I
say
like what
that
WandaVision did.
right, me too, because it was so new and it was actually like it had a cool concept to it.
Right. It was very unique, and I love what it did. Basically, showing every era of sitcoms. I thought that was pretty cool.
Right. Okay. So I feel like Loki could have been a movie, and I feel like as a movie, they could have cut off some like a lot of the fat in the movie. I
Hmm.
mean, in some areas,
Hmm.
and it could have been like a great movie, like a movie
It
that
could
did
have.
really well. Yeah, I think Loki would have done really well in as a movie. I think that Eternals should have been a TV show,
Yeah, Eternal should have
especially
definitely been a TV show.
especially because if you're working with 3 hours of content for a movie and you really want to take time to introduce each one of these characters, I feel like Eternal could have taken their time and really made that a TV show into something a little more chopped up into like a little more bite-sized pieces because I feel like it was just way too long.
Right. And
Um,
and going back to Loki, I think Loki could have been a TV show too. I mean,
okay.
I like Loki as a TV show,
Hmm.
but I think it could have been an even longer TV show. I think there's a lot in there, especially if you go into all the variants and then you see all the different variants of Loki and even give them more shine. Because I kind of wanted to see more of them too.
Right.
with the older version and the both for Loki, even the alligator and the child. I mean, I think all of them could have gotten more screen time
Hmm.
in a true TV season, not a 6 episode or whatever. But if you give me 10 episodes, and then you could even go deeper into how the TVA was taking people, from their lives and basically erasing their memories, and really go deeper into that. I think you could go either way, because again, with a movie, you would have to, like you said, cut off the fat
Right.
and not really focus on a whole bunch of characters. But in the show, they really introduced a big amount of characters, and I think if we had more time, we could have really fleshed all of them out.
Hmm.
Even Owen Wilson's character, Mobius, I think if we could have gotten a scene, if we could have gotten like a flashback scene with his old life, I think it would
Right.
make it hit harder that the TVA was taking people away.
Exactly.
So, just things like that, I think could work better in a show. But again, they could have went either way.
Okay. Another thing that I was gonna say is that, okay, this one's more of like a hot take, right? I
Mhm.
think that Shang-Chi could have been a good show. And I'm only saying that because I really like the beginning of it and the middle of it.
That one was kind of long too.
Right. But I feel like they really forced the ending. Like the ending was just like way too much CGI, and like the way the story just like collapsed on itself in the end was just like something that I was not a fan of. And I think that had they turned into a TV show that had maybe like 7, 8 episodes, I think that Shang-Chi could have been really great. And to take that movie spot, I think that Moon Knight could have been a better movie than it was a TV show.
I think Moon Knight should have been a TV show
You think so?
because,
You think it should have
yeah,
stayed a TV
because
show?
the whole thing with the personalities, I really think we could have. Because if you think about it, there's really three people inside one. We see two of them for most of the show. So I really think we should spend time with each of them and really flesh them out. Really, really see. I forgot the girl's name. The girl that he liked or whatever.
Oh
Show her
yeah.
past and what was going on with her. Like, I think there's a lot there for a TV show that we didn't really get to see, and go into the whole mythology with the gods and their story and how they connect. I really think there's a lot there. And I kind of agree with Shang-Chi,
Hmm.
but I think Shang-Chi was fine as a movie. I mean, there's not really a lot of characters in there. I mean, obviously, if they were doing a show, they would do it differently, and they'd probably introduce a bunch of people and stuff like that. But I think it was fine as a movie. The problem with Shang-Chi was that, like you said, the final battle, it had too much CGI, and I think it could have really benefited from going smaller scale and really leaning into the martial arts action. Really
Right.
lean into that. I feel like
Right.
they thought, because, oh, well, we're Marvel in this, we have to have CGI dragons and all these CGI monsters and things like that. No, you don't. They should have really took lessons from old Hong Kong action movies, something like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Hmm.
and really lean into the martial arts and showcase that. I think if they would have did that, it would have been more unique compared to the rest of the MCU. It would have been something a lot of people might not have seen that are Marvel fans.
Right.
I think it would have been, it would have been way better and way different, because again, it falls into that same trap where every superhero movie thinks they need some crazy big final battle. No, it doesn't.
Right.
But then again, if you have strong writing, you had these characters, and it's about the character. It's about a man having to go up against his father. And if that was happening to anybody, that's something that anybody can relate to, because that's something that could be so deep, family drama, somebody having to run away from his own father because he's evil, and then having to confront him as an adult.
Hmm.
That's something that is just, anybody can agree that that's pretty rough, and they would feel something watching that.
Exactly.
And I think that if they would just lean into the martial arts, because like I said, I've seen movies where the whole thing basically takes place in one room, and sometimes it's the best movie you ever seen, because it's about characters, it's about the writing, it's about the acting. You don't need CGI dragons and people shooting blasters and explosions and all this to make a good movie. But
The one thing that you said about like them really leaning into like the whole martial arts side of Shang-Chi, I feel like you're right because they did not lean into it enough. And I was
yeah, like they
and
did a
like
little bit, but not
it
enough to
really
me.
it really wasn't enough. Like even that whole fight with like Wong and like Abomination, that fight was like
Mhm.
10 seconds. Like it
Well, I don't
wasn't.
have a problem with that because it was just a cameo.
I mean,
But
yeah,
like the main characters, I think they could have done better. And I don't think the fight with Shang-Chi and his father was bad. I think that was pretty cool, how they used the rings and all that stuff.
yeah,
But
it was
with the
cool.
rest of it, with the armies, I don't think we needed that. And the dragons and all that, I don't think we needed that. And again, I really want you to watch this movie called The Raid because it is going to blow your mind. And I want and when you watch it, I want you to keep in mind that the budget was $1 million. The
Okay,
budget was $1 million, which is tiny,
yeah,
tiny. Mind you, Marvel movie budgets are $200 million, and
wow,
sometimes they look like crap. CGI is bad, and they have mediocre action. And I want you to watch this movie called The Raid, which has the best action, some of the best action ever of all time, and it was made for $1 million. And again, this is why I don't understand what Marvel is doing sometimes because they have a huge budget, they have all the resources. You can hire the best people in the industry.
right.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse. So again, we can't just sit here and blindly look at all this stuff and
It's
go, "Oh my God, it's so great." Because I see
right.
that take on social media. People are just like, just enjoy things. But I'm like,
Yo,
hold
I've
on,
seen that too, and I'm just like, bro, like you guys
yeah,
need
hold
to,
on,
yeah, you guys need to like understand like how things were and how things are, and know that there is like that there is a noticeable difference in terms of quality, and we're supposed to be getting better as time goes on. You know?
exactly, exactly. Things are supposed to get better, at least in the quality department. Like there shouldn't be any bad CGI and things like that. And of course, recently I've been seeing reports of Marvel treating VFX artists horrible, not giving them enough time, overworking them, and not, of course, not paying them enough. Nobody ever gets paid enough. So, it's sad to see,
It is.
especially when you're talking about Disney. Disney has enough money to do this stuff the right way. They have enough
Exactly.
money to have good CGI. They have enough money to hire the best action people, the best stunt people, and give them enough time. And again, that's really what I hear that is the biggest issue is just people don't have enough time. So I don't want to put it out there that Marvel's not hiring the best people because I think the people that are working on these movies are doing their best. I really do. But again, it's always stuff coming from the top that makes the art suffer.
Right. Exactly.
So again, Disney, you have no excuse. I don't understand how in 2022 we could have bad CGI, and it's not like you don't have enough time. These people announce projects 5 years into the future and somehow there's bad CGI. Like, no, get people working on that right now. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I
Like,
just
y'all
I
gotta
don't
be a
I
little more
just don't get
proactive.
it. Yeah,
Exactly.
I just don't get it. So have you heard anything about San Diego Comic Con and all the announcements that's been made over that weekend?
Yeah, I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot about the announcements that they made, and
Yeah, there's been a bunch of trailers dropping and
right, a
a
bunch of
bunch of
leaks too.
yeah. Well, I don't really want to get into leaks. I
Yeah,
don't pay
yeah,
attention to leaks, but
right.
they announced basically all the movies for the future. A bunch of trailers have dropped. The Black Panther 2 trailer dropped. So, did you see it?
I did see it,
So, how you
and
feeling about that? I mean, Black Panther
honestly,
2 has been a big topic of conversation. There's been reports of cast saying how they don't know what's really going to be in the movie because, of course, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. He passed, and
right.
that kind of screwed everything up. We've seen some people say they should recast T'Challa, but
Hmm.
has been pretty firm in saying that we're not going to recast T'Challa, and they're just going to figure out a way to work around it. Regardless of how you feel about it or how I feel about them recasting T'Challa. So yeah, they're just going to do their thing. And so yeah, how are you feeling about Black Panther 2 and what they've shown in the trailer and the direction that they're gonna go.
So I like Black Panther 2. I mean the trailer. I like it actually made me excited for what is to come. It seems like from everything going on, from the Chadwick Boseman's passing to like them having to really change what is going on in the movie, I feel like it's something that they have to put a lot of thought into, and the fact that they've kept it like under wraps this month so far, I feel like we might be in for a good surprise. I did like what I saw in the trailer though. I thought that there were a couple scenes that we got glimpses of that seemed to be like, like stunning. Like I liked the what seemed to be a funeral scene for T'Challa when the Dora Milaje was all wearing white and everything. I thought that like visually that just looks so good. I know that like Black Panther movies are known for being so captivating visually and everything. So I kind of can't wait to see that part at least. And also, introduction of Namor. I'm excited for that because I don't know much about the character Namor. I'm hearing hero on one side, I'm hearing villain, and the other side I'm hearing anti-hero on another side. So I'm excited to see like what Marvel does with his character. And I just think that this movie is going to open the door. I feel like this movie might be the biggest game changer of Phase 4 so far, if anything.
Well, I'm not as optimistic as you. I mean, I don't think I mean, based on the trailer, I really can't really say how I think the movie's gonna be. I really just don't know. I mean, they've obviously shown somebody in the Black Panther suit, so we know somebody's gonna take up the mantle. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman,
I
but
couldn't either.
so we don't know who it is. People are saying it's gonna be Shuri. It's gonna be what's Lupita's character name? It could be M'Baku. It could be somebody else. Well, people are saying all kind of things, so I don't really know what to think. We know somebody's in a suit. The trailer did look great. They look like they're going crazy with the costumes again, because that was the thing about the first one, was the costumes was crazy.
Right.
So I'll definitely go see it. The thing that I was most excited about out of the San Diego Comic-Con announcements in regards to Marvel was that Spider-Man freshman year cartoon that they announced. Did you see that?
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Man, look, the art style looking good. They said it's not. They said it's like canon to the MCU, like by multiverse, but so it's not really held down by anything that has happened already. So to me, that's a good thing, because the people can be free. They can do whatever they want. We've seen Norman Osborn, so we know we're going to see Oscorp and all those things that we're used to from Spider-Man. Huh?
They gave Norman Osborn his waves back.
Yeah, the waves. And they made him black too, so it's not even like crazy. They made him black, and he got the waves for real. So yeah, I'm liking what I see. They dropped a bunch of character designs, for all the side characters and the villains and things like that.
Right.
So I think that show is going to be really fun. They showed a whole bunch of the suit designs, so we know he's going to be changing his suits all the time. I think that show is going to be really fun. The art style looks great. Going back to Black Panther 2, Namor is a character who, if you don't know, he's like Marvel's version of Aquaman. He's the king of Atlantis or whatever. He was the underwater king.
Right.
But he's another one who hasn't really gotten any screen time outside the comics. He's so underused, and I have no idea why. I don't recall him even being in any cartoon. Seriously. He might be in Avengers Assemble. I haven't seen that cartoon, well, much of it, because it's not very good. So
I've really only heard of Namor being in like comic adaptations of stories. So like, yeah, but the thing is, like, I've heard about him being in quite a bit of stories in comics.
Right.
And him being like such an important character.
Right. That's why it boggles my mind why he hasn't been in anything outside of it. What I know him from, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a long time since I played Ultimate Alliance, but that's what I remember him from. And there's like a whole pretty big part of the game where you're in Atlantis. So that's really what I remember him from. My memory might be fuzzy though. I don't really know if he's in it that much. But again, Namor pretty underused. Like, finally excited for him to be getting his live action debut. Yeah, so there's been a bunch of stuff announced recently. They dropped a trailer or a clip for a Moon Girl cartoon.
Moon Girl?
Yeah. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
So Moon Girl is a pretty interesting character to me. I remember years ago, when she was like first created and they brought her into the comics. She's a little black girl. She's like mad young. She might be like 5 years old or something like that, or a little older than that. She has this like pet T-Rex or something. So she's like walking around with a T-Rex, and apparently she's the smartest person in Marvel, or one of the smartest people in Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know much about her. I just remember reading her Wikipedia like years ago, and I saw the little clip of the cartoon, and it looks pretty good. Like the art style, I like the art style. The animation looked like it was fluid, so I'm definitely gonna be on the lookout for that when that comes out.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. Did they drop any other trailers? I can't remember.
I don't know about like the actual trailers they dropped because I remember I've seen things on YouTube about like them showing like teasers of different properties that are coming out soon and like people trying to give like their own interpretation of what they saw.
Right.
So yeah, in terms of like trailers, like that's what I saw, but other than that, it was really just them like laying out the Phase 5 and Phase 6 slates for
Right.
what's
Which,
to come in the next 3 years.
right. Which we don't really have to spend much time on. This is stuff that's
Right.
years in advance. I don't really care to talk about stuff that isn't even that we don't even have a trailer for. I mean, we know Fantastic Four is coming. We know
Right.
Blade is coming.
Hmm.
So, it is what it is. But what they did announce, we do know that Daredevil is coming back.
Right.
Charlie Cox is coming back. Vincent D'Onofrio is coming back.
Oh, it was the She-Hulk trailer. I think we spoke about that already, but yeah, it was a She-Hulk
Well,
trailer.
we
That
talked
was the
about the
last one.
first one. We didn't talk about the
The second
newest
one.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we do know that they're doing the Daredevil show. I think if I remember correctly, it comes out spring 20, maybe is it 24? I think it's coming out spring 2024. So
Yeah, I
we
think
know
it's
we got
24.
the OGs back, and they said it's going to be 18 episodes. So
Yeah.
that's really intriguing to me because
It
maybe they're
is.
hearing people's criticisms about the pacing and the shows being too short, and they
Right.
actually want to do a real TV show.
Hmm.
So I
I'm
mean,
actually okay. So like, I'm pretty optimistic about She-Hulk, right? And
yeah, and
only
the
because
second bits did look way better in the CGI
right,
department.
right. Because I'm optimistic because they're diving a lot more into the story of how like she got training from Bruce and everything. I feel like there's gonna be. I feel like because of the length of the season, there's a lot more opportunity for character development and
Right,
introducing new characters as well. Because she's going to represent like powered individuals and not just like people like Emil Blonsky.
right.
So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, She-Hulk. The thing about She-Hulk is everybody has just been wanting to see some type of Hulk for a very long time.
right.
So everybody's kind of excited. We're excited to see She-Hulk, excited to see more of Hulk, and just the Hulk mythos in general. We
Hmm.
haven't really been getting enough of that in the MCU. So,
Right.
I think in terms of my personal interest, I'm more interested in watching She-Hulk than Ms. Marvel. And again, She-Hulk is a character that I've been aware of my entire life. Just from watching the cartoons, she's even appeared in cartoons, in the 90s. So,
Right.
this is somebody that I've known, I know a little bit about, even though she hasn't really gotten a lot of shine outside the comics. But
Hmm.
again, she's somebody who's been out there a little bit. Miss Marvel is a very recent Marvel creation, and I think she's a pretty interesting character,
Yeah.
in
You
general.
gotta see.
But
You gotta see how
but
they
I'm
make her
just saying
character
the
in the
show
show.
didn't really look like much to me. I'll probably watch it eventually. I'm just not in a rush.
Yeah, I
It
hear
is
you.
what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. So we got She-Hulk coming this month, or
Yeah.
by the time this comes out, it'll be August. Yes, we got She-Hulk, we got Daredevil. We know Daredevil's coming back with the
Hmm.
cast. I mean, here's the thing. Uh, I will. I know I'm gonna watch Daredevil when it eventually comes out, but
Hmm.
I don't know, man. I'm not really. that optimistic about Disney doing Daredevil
I so
because they're
so
too scared to get dark. I think they really are.
here's the thing, right? I think with the introduction of Deadpool in the MCU, if they want to be able to maintain the properties that they've absorbed, they're gonna need to bring the walls down a little bit in terms of like how violent they can make some action scenes.
Hmm.
Because like I just watched Logan for the first time in a few years the other day, right? And I was just like, yo, how does Disney expect to bring a character like Wolverine in the MCU?
They're not even gonna show
Right?
him cut nobody.
Right. If you can barely show an action scene with, if you can barely show an action scene in Hawkeye of, what's that girl's name?
One Echo.
No, no, no. Well, yeah, like Echo fighting. Like it was like I thought that the fight scenes in Hawkeye were shot so poorly. It was one of the things. It was one of the things that I did not like about the show at all. But I'm just like, if you have a show like Hawkeye, where the fighting scenes are shot so poorly, and like hardly any of the hits that landed are shown on screen, and it's more so like characters just falling on screen.
Hmm.
How do you expect to bring somebody like Wolverine in the MCU after his last appearance was Logan, when he's literally cutting people's arms off
In the
and
first
cutting
scene,
in the first scene?
literally
He lit
the opening scene, he cuts a guy's arm off.
And then in the middle of the movie, his and Charles had one of his episodes when they were in the casino, and Logan was the only one that can move. He literally put his claws through one dude's head, and you could see the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like,
They also stabbed little Laura in the heart. A little girl. They showed her get stabbed in the heart, bruh.
yeah, right. And I'm just like, yo, Marvel gotta tighten up, bro. If you expect to bring in somebody like Wolverine and still keep it PG, because so the thing about Daredevil is that like I will be more optimistic about Daredevil once I see how Deadpool plays out. If
Well, Daredevil's coming out before Deadpool.
really
Yeah, Deadpool's not coming out next year.
it's not,
No,
oh
we don't
shoot.
know when Deadpool's coming out. The only thing they've said about Deadpool is that it's going to be rated R.
Well, what's it called? Daredevil doesn't come out next year either.
Yeah, I said Daredevil comes out 24.
Yeah, I thought that's when Deadpool comes out too.
I don't know when Deadpool 3. I don't think they've announced when Deadpool 3 is coming out
Okay.
because they
Wow.
haven't even started like working on it. Like we know that with Daredevil coming out in spring 24, they're probably going to start doing it soon.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but I was watching Logan and I was like, yeah, Marvel gotta tighten up because they want to be able to keep the fan base that they've absorbed with the Fox merger.
But the thing I hope that they do with Daredevil is sort of like ShangChi. They really had to lean into the martial arts. I mean,
Mm.
Daredevil throughout the seasons has had so many cool action scenes and really being innovative, do something different. Those hallway fight scenes were just insane. I go and watch them back. You know, every once in a while, I gotta go watch those scenes again because they were just
So
so
they're just
crazy.
too good. They're too
Yeah,
good.
that one. First of all, the one hallway fight scene in season 1 where he still has the black on
Mm-hmm.
and he goes and saves the kid was just crazy. And then
Top
there was the
five.
one with the staircase in season 2, like when he had his hands taped to the gun. That was crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was yeah, I forgot about that scene. Yeah, that scene was nuts.
And then there was season 3 with Bullseye. Bullseye is a person that I want to see back. I really want to see Bullseye back. He gives you so much. I mean, it to me it's like free creativity. Like as a person, you don't even have to do no work coming up with cool action because Bullseye is just a freaking he's just like a garden of cool action. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, he's even better than a Deadshot because they always show Bullseye throwing things, and to me, that's just so much cooler on camera than a guy shooting guns from far away. Even though
Except,
you can still really be cool with a guy shooting guns, but what they did with Bullseye was just so amazing. I think
yo,
just
especially
showing
the
him.
way especially the way like they shot it too. Like I was like,
Hmm.
yo,
And
like
and and the way he was in the office, he was just picking up random things. He's picking up a pen,
yeah,
throws it, and it the way he's bouncing stuff off the walls, and
right,
it was just so cool. And that like I really hope they bring back Bullseye because that was just amazing. And like you said, the way they shot it and a lot of those scenes, there would be like 5 minutes with no cut,
right.
which I think that they're hiding the cuts a lot of the time.
Hmm.
For the one though, I think the hallway one in the first in season one they didn't cut. I think that
Yeah,
was they really all memorized that choreography and did that. But I can't confirm for season two.
right. The uh now that I'm thinking more about Daredevil, in Hawkeye, I think the one thing that I am nervous about with Daredevil, right,
It's like
is the
polar
way,
opposites.
huh?
I said those shows are like polar opposites, but go ahead.
Right. No, no, no. But like the continuation of Daredevil in the MCU, the one thing that I'm worried about now is the way they introduce Kingpin. Like I didn't like Kingpin in Hawkeye.
Oh no, he was
Um,
terrible.
yeah,
Terrible.
I didn't like Kingpin in Hawkeye, and like Kingpin was arguably one of the best parts of Daredevil as a TV show on Netflix. So those two ideas are really what's giving me pause about Daredevil coming to the MCU.
Yeah. See, you hit the nail on the head with Kingpin, and I,
Hmm.
I agree completely. And another thing I gotta say about the Daredevil thing is the way they portrayed the city in Daredevil. It's almost like its own character. It's like
Yo,
the city itself is like a character in the show. Where in Hawk, and mind you, these are the same places. This is New York
yeah,
City, and in Hawkeye, the city is like so it doesn't even feel like New York. It's so generic. It could
yo,
be any city. They could have been filming that in freaking Toronto or Seattle or Chicago or LA. It could have been any city and it doesn't make a difference.
yo. You know what? We might have to save this for like another topic. But like, I this is my one issue with my main issue actually with Spider-Man in the MCU.
Yeah, the
I'm just
city
like
isn't really interesting.
I'm like, yo, Spider-Man in the MCU is like okay, cool, but this whole time, like this whole three movie stretch, it hasn't really felt like we've been in New York at all.
Yeah.
It probably felt like New York maybe like three or four scenes when he's been in like the deli or something like that,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or when he was walking on the street somewhere. But other than that, like it doesn't feel like, especially when you take him out of New York so much. Like Homecoming, a huge chunk of Homecoming was spent in DC, right?
Hmm. Well,
The
yeah. Well, there
whole
was there was DC, and then Far From Home was not
Far
even
From
in the
Home, he was in
U.S.
Europe. He was in Europe, and
Yeah,
I'm just like, okay, it's cool, right? I know that like Spider-Man is popular for being sent on missions like elsewhere,
right.
out of New York, right?
But it's
But like,
fine. But for the next one, they got to bring it back home, man.
right,
They
and
got to
I
bring it
feel
back.
like
We need to see New York.
we need to see New York because especially now that he has his apartment in the city, right? He has his apartment in the city. I'm just like, okay, like now you guys have the opportunity to really build New York as a character because it hasn't really been that for Tom Holland Spider-Man so far.
Yeah, man. I need Spider-Man to say, I need a bacon, egg, and cheese the Aki way. I'm just
Yo,
kidding.
facts.
Please do not put that in the movie. Do not put that
Nah,
in the
but honestly, like something, bro. Like even if he has to become like a delivery boy again, for pizzas, something.
Yeah, yeah. No, but even the original Raimi trilogy was like more of New York. Just even that moment
Yo,
where
because
Doc
I
Ock was
felt
on the train and then the guy was like, "You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us," or something like
right,
that.
or
Like,
even the fact that he was shooting for the bugle, right?
right,
It's like
right,
we gotta bring that part back because that's like foundational.
right.
We haven't gotten that since Raimi. But
Yeah, well, with this San Diego Comic Con, there was a lot of announcements for the future. I'm
hmm
excited. I'm mostly excited for the animation because it looks like they're really trying to do something. We have multiple projects coming out. We know What If season 2 is coming out, so I'm pretty excited for more of that. I love the animation style and the art style for What If season 1. I
Hmm.
think it was a great looking show, even though each episode wasn't as good as I thought it could have been, and they didn't really take advantage of the what if, concept as much as I thought they could have. But as far as visually, I thought it was great. I want to see season 2. I'm really excited for Spider-Man Freshman Year, the cartoon coming out, for Moon Girl coming out. I hope there's more Marvel animated projects on the way. Oh, X-Men 97 was announced at San Diego Comic Con,
Mm,
and
right.
for those of you that don't know, it's a continuation of the original X-Men cartoon from the 90s. So I'm gonna have to rewatch that. That's a show that I grew up on, and for a lot of people, that's the reason why the X-Men are so popular. Well, I mean, not really. They were popular in the comics first, but for the mainstream or more mainstream audience, X-Men was still the number one Marvel team, and a lot of that is because of that cartoon and the iconic theme song and everything. So to see that kind of get brought back, and we're gonna see the new animation, better quality. I'm excited for that. We're gonna see Magneto. We're gonna see Cyclops. We're gonna see Wolverine, Storm. The old gang is back
Hmm.
again. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for that. So yeah, I mean, Marvel. We've been stale for a while, but I hope they can pick it back up because I really love Marvel. I really love superheroes, and even though I'm saying that it's less special, but it's still special for when you see a new character finally get their live action debut. Like we're seeing She-Hulk for the first time, we've
Right.
seen ShangChi for the first time. We're gonna see Namor for the first time. So I really just hope that they could get it right. We're gonna see Kang for the first time. So yeah, I mean I think there's a lot to be excited for, even if what's
Definitely.
recently hasn't been up to par.
Right.
But I'm glad to be back talking to you,
Hmm.
doing our thing.
Likewise. Exactly. There's a lot more to talk about too. This was just something that like I really felt like we need to talk about because I feel like a lot of people are speaking on it, but like I feel like not a lot of people are really hearing uh what's being said.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
again, I mentioned it earlier. A lot of people are having this and just enjoy things take, but
Hmm.
I don't really understand it because naturally you're not going to enjoy everything, no matter who you are. You're just not going to enjoy everything, and there's nothing wrong with having an opinion. We're
Right.
not here just dogging anybody and trying to put nobody down. Because, like I said, I think the people that work on this stuff are truly doing their best. I don't think anybody is setting out to go, oh, I want to make a mediocre show, or I want to make a mediocre movie. But I really think the problems are really just with Disney, with
Mm.
the way they handle things from the top. So, it's good to be back, good to be here.
It's great to be back. Yes, sir.
So again, follow us on Twitter, Instagram at FilmjetPod.
Hmm.
We're here to talk with y'all about movies. If you have any questions, if there's anything you want us to talk about, DM us, email us, or even if you just have a question you want us to answer, send us questions, comment. We respond to everybody because we just like to talk about movies. That's why we do this. So
Right. Exactly.
talk to us. Follow us on the social medias, Twitter and Instagram at FilmjetPod. And yeah, more podcasts are coming. So that's it.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Thank you all for listening, and we'll try to be more consistent this time around. But we're gonna try and bring you content as much as possible. But yeah, like Stefan said, stay interactive, and we'll be back.